Well, hello and welcome to a brand new live edition of Squared Circle Radio here on Squared Circle Radio YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being with us following Monday Night Raw. My name is Chris Belcher, and it's going to be a fun show. We have a new championship contender in Jey Uso. If you guys see me looking around here on the YouTube channel, I'm trying to retweet this link. That way that we can get some more people in here joining us. Jey Uso is going to challenge CM Punk for the vacant. That's right, the vacant World Heavyweight Championship. We're going to get into that and all that entails with Seth Rollins, with the Bronze, with Paul Heyman, all that kind of stuff. Again, thank you for being with us very much. If you're watching live, drop those comments and questions in the chat. I would appreciate it. If you are watching the replay, you can drop comments and questions as well, and I'll go back through all of those and answer them as well. But if you're just listening on podcast, I highly recommend joining the YouTube channel and hanging out live with us. But if podcasting is your thing, that's fine. Just follow on whatever platform that you are listening. And if you're listening on SportsWire Radio, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Keep it locked in right here to the station for some great content following our show. All right, let's get into the end of Monday Night Raw. I mentioned it, Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso wins a battle royal to earn the spot to face CM Punk at Saturday night's main event, 2 weeks from this past Saturday, coming up, and I think it's November the 1st. So, vacant World Heavyweight Championship. We're going to get into that in just a second. Battle Royal was very interesting. Honestly, you had all the heavy hitters in there, but honestly, I expected a few more heavy hitters. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm sitting here trying to come up with the people on the Raw roster who would be heavy hitters that would be in that match. And I guess they were all in there, but I don't know. It just felt like you had Ivar from the Viking Raiders in there. You had, I guess, El Grande Americano's fine, but Otis was in there. Akira Tozawa was in there. It's like, you can do better than that. Come on. Like, of course, Finn was in there. JD was in there. AJ Styles was in there. We're going to talk about AJ in just a little bit. Dragon Lee was in there. So, I don't know. I guess all the heavy hitters were there. Just, I don't know. It felt weird. Maybe it felt weird because the Bronze weren't in there. Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, a huge part of this storyline. They were not in there. And we'll get to why in just a few minutes. But based on what happened throughout the night, I did expect them to come out and show up and wreak havoc in this battle royal. I thought it would be pretty cool if they, Heyman told the story when they were doing the backstage promo about Brock Lesnar and what Brock Lesnar did on his first night in, saying he could have wrecked everybody. And the way that things have been going with Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman, I felt like a light bulb could have went off for Braun Breaker and he could have been like, oh, wreck everybody on the first night. Sounds good. And just gone to the ring. I expected with 2 to 3 people left in the battle royal that the Bronze would just come out and chuck everybody over, and they're technically not in the match, and just ruin it. And somehow Braun Breaker, my thought was we would get a challenger for CM Punk, but Braun Breaker would find his way into the match and it would be a triple threat match. That's kind of what I thought would happen. But I guess WWE didn't want to book it the way that I wanted to book it. It's fine. Whatever. They have their reasons, and that's okay. Found it interesting. Obviously, we continue to tell this story with the Usos, the rift between the brothers and Roman Reigns, his presence looming, even when he's not on the show. You got to love that. Jimmy helping Jey several times in this match not get eliminated. One in particular, especially with LA Knight, with him teetering on the side there and Jimmy making the save and pulling him back in. So Jimmy helping Jey, but Jey not helping Jimmy. When it came down to it, LA Knight and Jimmy Uso were hung up on the rope, and Jey just flipped them both over at the same time. So, you finish the night with the shot of CM Punk and Jey Uso face to face, and then you got Jimmy watching from a distance. So very interesting. I'll be interested to see. I honestly thought it could be cool if Roman Reigns, I know they mentioned Roman not being in the Battle Royal. I thought it could have been really cool if Roman would have showed up and won the Battle Royal. Could you imagine Saturday night's main event headlined by Roman Reigns versus CM Punk for the championship? I mean, I know that's PLE worthy, but still, could you imagine? I know Roman has degraded that championship, called it second rate, et cetera, whatever. So he probably won't ever compete for it, but I thought it would be really cool if Roman got in there, Roman won, and then he can say to Jey and Jimmy, hey, that's how you do it. You weren't being aggressive enough. You blah, 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 whatever. But now Jey is being aggressive enough. And now Jey has eliminated his brother at all costs. He's going for the gold. So there's that. Interesting to see how this rift plays out next week, as Saturday night's main event is not this coming Saturday, but it's the following Saturday. So we'll see how it goes. Dirty Dominic Mysterio being the last one to be eliminated. I thought he was going to win, honestly, there for a minute, especially after they did the old Stone Cold Steve Austin Royal Rumble 97 spot where they toss him out of the ring and the referees don't see him and he sneaks back in the ring. I thought for sure that Dirty Dom would find a way to win this match, but it's okay. I think if it would have been anybody other than Jey Uso, maybe LA Knight, but anybody else that would have eliminated Dom would have gotten booed because I think the people wanted to see Dom win. But Jey getting the pop there, so that worked out for him. So we'll talk a whole lot more about CM Punk versus Jey Uso next week. Again, a Saturday night's main event is next Saturday. But I will not be surprised if Jey Uso regains his World Heavyweight Championship. I'm just saying, I'm not ready to make that prediction yet, but it will not shock me if main event Jey Uso wins that championship at Saturday night's main event. So we'll see. All right, let's backtrack. Let's talk about how we got here. The opening promo of Monday Night Raw tonight saw Adam Pearce be interrupted by the Vision, Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, and Adam Pearce making the announcement that I already had a problem with this. Adam Pearce made the announcement that Seth Rollins was stripped of the World Heavyweight Championship. I wouldn't have said it that way. Again, I've already said something tonight that I would have booked that WWE obviously didn't listen to me. So they didn't consult me on this either, but that's fine. One of these days. But in any event, I would not have used that language. I would not have said Seth Rollins was stripped of the championship because Adam Pearce was talking all about how it's because of Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker that we're in this position. He didn't even allude to the fact that Seth got hurt in the Cody match. But it was because of the Brawns we're in this position. Because of the Brawns, we're in this position. Well, I would have taken it a step further and said, because of what you did, Seth Rollins has to have surgery and is going to be out for a long time. Therefore, unable to defend his championship, so the title must be vacated. That's all you have to say. Instead of saying, well, because of what you all did, I'm stripping Seth Rollins of the title. Like, I wouldn't. Stripped makes me think of the champion won the title in an egregious way, or the champion broke the rules in some way, or, whatever. I would have just said championship is vacated. But again, WWE didn't consult me on this ahead of time. So it's fine. All that to say, I thought it was a really good promo. And really telling this story about not only did Heyman just run Seth down and he's saying that the Vision was all about Braun Breaker, which if you think about it, the way Heyman and Rollins cut their promos, it was all about Braun Breaker to begin with. So it continues that story nicely. But I don't know if y'all caught this or not as you're watching the show, but when Pierce is asking for the world championship and Breaker won't hand it over, he's very reluctant. And then he tells Pierce, all right, you got to say please. If you look at Heyman's face when that happens, Heyman is almost like, come on, Braun, just give it. Come on, Braun. Don't be like this. Or he's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? What are you doing, Braun? It's almost like he can't control Braun. It's almost like that even though he's endorsed Braun, even though he's on his side, there's that part of him that he can't control Braun Breaker because he doesn't know what he's going to do. He said it tonight to Becky Lynch. He said that the Brauns made the call last week to attack Seth Rollins themselves, and that Paul then chose to align with them. So that begs the question. We're talking all about this here. When Paul's talking to Becky Lynch, he made it seem like he didn't have a choice, which, talking to Seth Rollins' wife, I mean, you're trying to cover your tracks as best as you can, all the while trying to get her to join the vision, which we'll get to that in just a second. But the language he was using with Becky Lynch was different than the language that he was using during his promo, and was different than the body language he was using while Braun Breaker was talking. So that just adds layers upon layers upon layers to this story about what are we really getting? Now, if you want to look at it and be a realist, the disbelief goes out the window and the entertainment aspect goes out the window. The storytelling goes out the window. You could say, well, Seth Rollins got injured. They didn't really know they were going to be going down this path this early. So they're having to figure it out as they go. And there might be some missteps. There might be some words that are not used correctly. Context, this, that, and the other. While that might make sense, Paul Heyman is very smart. And Paul Heyman is a planner when it comes to stuff like this. Paul Heyman is very strategic with what he says, how he says it. So I think there's something here to the different ways that Paul Heyman is telling this story tonight. And moving forward, how he told the story last week, how he tells it tonight in the 3 different instances, and then how he's going to tell it moving forward. So, speaking of that, there was an interesting online theory brought up about the vision and about how this whole thing could play out. City Kitty alive in the chat with us. Thank you for being here. I don't think Seth would have relinquished the title willingly, so it had to be taken. Oh, 100%. Yes, completely agree with you. Especially since this technically wasn't planned to happen right now. You know, Seth Rollins cashing in the Money in the Bank at SummerSlam and then being on this run, and seemingly we were going to have Seth versus Punk Part 3 headline Saturday night's main event. So yeah, I agree. He certainly wouldn't have relinquished it willingly. They had to take it from him. Which brings me back to my point, City Kitty. And for those of you who might just now be joining us, that I said a few minutes ago, I still think there might be a scenario where Braun Breaker works his way into this CM Punk versus Jey Uso match at Saturday night's main event. I don't know how, but I think there's a chance that he finds his way in there. So, all that to say, there was an interesting online theory floating around. I don't want to say it was, well, maybe it was rumor. I think it was Sports Kita that may have put the report out there. But again, as we've talked about before, reports are reports until they are proven as facts. So who knows? exactly if it's truth, what it is, who knows. But a theory was floated out there that maybe, just maybe, that Paul Heyman could come out talking about who he turned on at WrestleMania and why he turned him, blah, 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 which he did tonight. But that eventually Heyman would reveal that it was, in fact, CM Punk who was the head of the vision, who was the true visionary, and that CM Punk was the one pulling the strings in all this. Now, that is a great plan. I would have gone that direction. That would be really, really cool. But doesn't seem like they're going that way yet. I think the door's still open for it. But could you imagine if the roles are reversed and Punk is the heel when Rollins comes back as this humongous babyface? I mean, that would be huge. The point I was going to make earlier about Becky Lynch, where I said I was going to circle back, the way that the Brawns got booed tonight, aside from the Barks, which it is what it is. I just write those off. The way they got booed tonight and the way that Heyman and Becky were talking backstage, Becky talking about how Seth knew that Heyman was going to eventually turn on him and that he didn't need him. I think Seth could come back as a huge babyface. Even though he's a better heel, I think he'd come back as a huge babyface. And if that CM Punk scenario were to happen, that would make him an even bigger babyface. Now, turning CM Punk heel might be like turning Edge heel in 2022. Probably not going to work in the long run. Just people just want to love CM Punk because he was gone from the WWE for 11 years or whatever it was. So probably don't want him to be a heel, but this could be an interesting way to do it. I wouldn't mind it. But nonetheless, that's fantasy booking. That could happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Doesn't matter. What is going to happen is Saturday night's main event next Saturday, November the 1st, CM Punk versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. We're going to break it all down coming up on next week's show, so make sure you're locked in for that. And make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. That's the way to be locked in for it. Hit that notifications bell. Make sure that you know each and every time that we go live, which is every Monday after Raw. Speaking of going live, you may be listening to this live on SportsWire Radio. Well, here is a little break and a word from the Reverend Tom Bryce about what else you could expect from SportsWire Radio.
Looking for all the latest happenings in the world of sports and wrestling? Well, you're in luck because SportsWire Radio has you covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. With great shows in the world of sports, such as the Pinstripe Chronicles, hosted by Uncle Tats, Donald Stewart, and Rob Barrows. New York Baseball Talk with Chris Bazaya and Rob Maraska. The Liftoff Jets, also hosted by Chris Bazaya and Sharman Phillip. Neil Villapiano and the Devil's State of Mind. Randy Dillon's Hockey Fan Chat. In the world of wrestling, SportsWire Radio has you covered with Squared Circle Radio, featuring Chris Belcher, Andy York, and Jared Justice. Those sit-down marks with DB, Primo, AJ, and Michael. A work in progress, featuring the Mayor of Canton, Piles, and Glenn Abbott. You can catch all of these great shows and more anytime, anywhere, and any place via the Listen Live button on SportsWireRadio.org, and you can also catch SportsWire Radio anytime on YouTube at SportsWire Radio 6579 to catch all the latest happenings in the world of wrestling. SportsWire Radio has you covered. It's all sports matters and all wrestling matters here on SportsWire Radio. I am your host, the owner of SportsWire Radio, the #1 global radio station, the owner of the Promo Wrestling Federation, and one of the owners of the Pride Wrestling Federation. Your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters, the Reverend Tom Bryce.
Appreciate you, Tom Bryce, all of the support that you have given Squared Circle Radio over the years. Can't thank you enough for your friendship, brother. Thank you all for being here with us, whether you're watching live, whether you're listening live, you're listening to the replay, or you're watching the replay. There are so many ways, including our other partners who I failed to mention earlier, WSN, Wrestling Society Network. So many great ways to check out Squared Circle Radio. So whatever way that you are doing it, just keep doing it. We appreciate it so very much. Follow me at Chris Belcher24 on X and on Instagram. I would appreciate a follow. I appreciate the interaction, all of those kind of things. As we build this Squared Circle Radio community, listen, wrestling's going to be around. Wrestling is as hot right now as it's ever been. And we're going to do our best to be right here covering every bit of it with you. So we want you along for the ride. This show is for the fans, by the fans. I love when you interact in the chat live, help drive the conversation, because ultimately I want to talk about what you want to hear about. So you tell me in the comments what you want to hear about. We'll talk about it on the show. Speaking of on the show tonight, Monday Night Raw, AJ Styles and Dragon Lee capture tag championship gold. Yes, that's right. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee defeating Finn Balor and JD McDonough in an incredible match on Monday Night Raw to capture the tag team championship. In fact, I failed to mention this at the top of the show, but since I'm talking about a championship match, 3 championship matches on both Raw and SmackDown this week. I just mentioned that wrestling is hot as it's ever been, and we have 6 championships defended within 2 shows. Now, some may say that's a few too many championships. I'll hear your argument. I could potentially side with it as well, but nonetheless, a big 2 shows this week between Raw and SmackDown. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee capturing tag team gold. Now listen, I know that tag team titles go through ebbs and flows of how much they mean, how important they are, how much of a spotlight is on them. And so one can make the argument that it doesn't matter that AJ Styles and Dragon Lee are the tag team champions because nobody's going to remember it. Well, that's possible. But AJ Styles finally has gold around his waist again in the WWE. So if you're watching live on YouTube, yes, I'm trying to pull up the Monday Night Football game. I have fantasy football writing on this, and I'd like to have it on while I'm doing this show, but I think fantasy football is going to go down the tubes this week. Thank you, Andy York. If you're watching us, appreciate that. Steady Kitty in the chat. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee had a phenomenal match. Yes, they did. So much so that I'm going to go back and watch it again. It's easily the best match of the night, for sure. So, fantastic stuff. I just love that AJ Styles has gold again. You know, AJ has been very public over the last month or so, especially in the build to the match with John Cena at Crown Jewel, that AJ is not going to be around much longer. And he has been very vocal about not wrestling in his 50s. And he's getting close, ladies and gentlemen. I think he's 48. I think the last comment that he made about it was that his contract expires in February, but he's working on something to get them through WrestleMania so that he can do WrestleMania. So who knows exactly when AJ's last match is going to be, but it will be next year. And as an AJ Styles fan, I'm not ready for that. I'm just not. I know that a lot of people can just write off AJ at this point in his career. And most WWE fans, I think, actually do. And that's the sad reality of it, is that AJ Styles is one of the best in-ring performers of this generation. Yet his booking probably hasn't lended itself any favors recently. He got injured and he missed a bunch of time, so I understand that. But he hasn't been involved in the World Championship picture since this version of the World Heavyweight Championship was created. So in 2023, when he and Seth Rollins battled for the championship. Now, I know that later on he wrestled Cody for the championship He had a run with Cody last year, but still, we don't think of AJ Styles in the main event picture right now. And that's sad because AJ needs to be celebrated. AJ deserves to be celebrated, especially on his way out. People are forgetting, I think, just how good AJ Styles was when he came into the WWE and just how much of an incredible rookie year that he had when he got to WWE, winning the world championship in his first few months and holding the title a second time for a whole year. Like, AJ's done some stuff. So I know he's not going to get the John Cena treatment on the way out the door, and that's fine. But I just hope that WWE does something special for AJ Styles on his way out. Putting tag team gold on him, okay, that's cool. Maybe that's the only championship that he's going to win between now and retirement. I don't like it. I think he should be world heavyweight champion. I think we should have had a scenario where he won the match tonight, and then AJ Styles was the one to face CM Punk at Saturday night's main event. You imagine how many heads that would turn? I mean, come on. Another thing I would have booked. WWE, listen, WWE just needs to come calling to Squared Circle Radio. We got tons of ideas. Might not all work for you, but they're going to work for us. AJ Styles, I'd have had him win that championship match. All that to say, AJ's career is coming to a close, and it's very sad, but it's coming. Whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. We're going to celebrate him on his way out, and then following that as well. All right. Let's talk about some Friday Night SmackDown notes. Appreciate you guys again being with us. Like the video if you haven't already. Drop those comments and questions in the chat. Would love to get to each and every one of those. And even if you're watching the replay, drop those comments in there. We had some really strong viewership, at least comparatively speaking, on our channel. Some really strong viewership on the long form show, which I appreciate. Thanks so much. But then a couple of the cuts that we posted from our last episode, some strong viewership on those and some comments and stuff. Thank you all so much for doing that. And if you subscribed because of those things, thank you for doing that. Again, just help us build this community. One of the best ways for you to help us build this community is to share this show on your social media platforms. Yes, that's right. You have a social reach that I'm never going to be able to get to. So if you share it on your social with your friends that are wrestling fans, bring them into this show together, that just helps build this community so much. So if you guys would do me that favor, share this show on your social media. Tell a friend. I know you got friends that like wrestling. I know you do. Tell them about the show. Have them come along for the ride. That would be very much appreciated. All right. Let's get to those Friday Night SmackDown notes. Cody Rhodes defended his WWE Championship in a suit on Friday Night SmackDown. In a suit. Now listen, Cody's been wearing suits long enough that he's obviously comfortable wrestling in a suit. I just can't imagine doing the Cody Cutter, disaster kick, all those things in loafers. I can't imagine doing that. I've worn those things a time or two, and they're not comfortable. Certainly not to move quickly in, but Cody's got more money than I do. I'm sure those loafers are ready to go. Maybe special made for him to wrestle in. Who knows? I have no idea. But Cody wrestled in a suit. Yes, City Kitty, exactly. And dress shoes. Come on. I wonder if they're specially made for wrestling. Maybe they are. That's interesting. Cody in a suit. City Kid, I don't know if you saw this or not. Cody was doing an interview. I don't remember exactly who it was with. Maybe it was on ESPN promoting WrestlePalooza. I don't remember exactly, but he was talking about suits, but he was also talking about coming out in his warm-up gear. You know, when he has like the windbreaker and the athletic pants or whatever. And he said that the producers and the writers and creative and the people in the back, when he dresses like that, they call him Cozy Rhodes, like he's in his cozies instead of his suit. I don't know, I just thought that was funny. Anyway, Cody and Drew for the WWE Championship on SmackDown. Obviously, the way this thing ended in disqualification, we'll have another match between these two. Drew not happy with the way it ended. Cody getting himself disqualified, which was kind of weird. And I don't mind him doing it, especially when we see a more vicious side of Cody. I don't mind him doing it. The issue that I have is how he did it. Like, he was not in control in the match. He was thrown over to the timekeeper's area and grabbed the belt and hit Drew from out of nowhere. And the reason that this was weird, just judge it by the crowd reaction. There was none. Like, it was silent. They didn't know what to do. Like, I would have understood if Cody would have been in a fit of rage. He's beating up Drew, and then he sees the title, he grabs it, and then he bashes Drew over the head with it. Like, I would have been okay with that. The way that he did it, it just made it feel like he was desperate. And they made that point on commentary too, like, oh, Cody's pulling out all the stops. Cody's desperate to get at Drew McIntyre here, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that didn't work for me. Like, I'm not going to turn on Cody because of the way he did that. I'm okay with him doing it. I just wish they would have done it in a little bit different of a way. There you go, City Kitty. Yes, Pat McAfee show. You're exactly right. It was on Pat McAfee. It was on McAfee a couple weeks ago. It was ahead of SmackDown in Cincinnati. That's what it was. Okay. So, good call on that. See, I knew you being the Cody Rhodes fan, you would know. You would correct me. You would help me out there. I appreciate that very much. All right. Swig a Mountain Dew here for the worker man as we hit a couple more things from SmackDown and then we get out of here. All right. Ilya Dragunov returns to the WWE after a terrible knee injury, comes back, and wins the United States Championship from Sami Zayn. What? I mean, apparently, if you read the rumor and innuendo online, Sami pushed for Ilya to win this match. Okay. I have nothing against Ilya Dragunov. Obviously, he's a really good talent. Puts on really good matches. The match with Sami Zayn was nothing short of a banger. But I thought Sami was getting some momentum with this U.S. Championship thing. Like, I wanted to see Sami versus Miz. I know Carmelo Hayes got his revenge on Miz, but I would have liked to have seen Miz versus Sami Zayn. There were lots of people that I still wanted to see Sami Zayn against, which I guess serves the point. The rumor that was floating around when he won this championship is that this could be a trial run to see what they're going to do with him in the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia and if he's going to be world champion. Could be really interesting if CM Punk is the champion. Sami Zayn wins and Sami Zayn remembers that comment that CM Punk was talking about him. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I know there was a line that Punk used on Sami Zayn, maybe that he was second rate or something. Sami Zayn calls that back when he's the number one contender. Who knows? That's far down the road. All that to say, I thought Sami had some really good momentum with this U.S. Championship Open Challenge, and I hope that Dragunov can keep that up. And the reason I have doubts about that is because the people are really behind Sami Zayn. I'm not saying that Dragunov can't become a fan favorite. I think he's going to have a harder time becoming the fan favorite that Sami Zayn is. Because Sami Zayn has years of equity built up with this fan base Dragunov does not. So you had this momentum with the U.S. Championship, and now you're pulling it back. It's almost like the momentum you had with Chelsea Green and the Women's U.S. Championship. We talked about that, I think, 2 weeks ago on the show. You had momentum with Chelsea Green and the Women's U.S. Championship, and then you just kind of take it away. And now it means nothing. So I kind of wonder if that'll happen here. I don't know. It was an incredible match. So maybe Ilya can continue this, just having incredible matches with these young talents and lesser known talents. In fact, he's a lesser known talent. So again, I just think it's an uphill battle that he's got to prove himself to the fan base as the U.S. champion. All that to say, a fantastic match between these two, and I'll be interested to see what happens moving forward. City Kitty in the chat, I was confused about Sammy losing that match. Wasn't familiar with Ilya Dragunov, the other wrestler. Yeah. Ilya, for City Kitty and those of you who are watching or listening to this show that don't know, Ilya had some wars with Gunther in their NXT days, specifically the UK Championship. So that's your best place to go back and check out some Ilya Dragunov stuff. He was starting to get some momentum a little bit on Monday Night Raw when he got hurt, but not a whole lot. So his best days are certainly in NXT. So you want to go check that stuff out. That's the best place to see some of Ilya Dragunov stuff. All right. 2 more things real quick, and then we'll close up shop. Man, I talked about last week the union of Aleister Black and Zelina Vega on screen. And man, a vignette this past week on SmackDown, holy cow. That was a killer vignette. Somebody online even suggested that they should change her name to Zelina Black. I don't hate that. She's known as Zelina Vega, so I think it's fine. I think the person online was inferring that a lot of people don't believe that they're actually husband and wife, so maybe that would help. I don't know. It is what it is. But regardless, that was an incredible vignette. I'll be interested to see if they sort of do a WWE spin on the House of Black like they did in AEW. You know, Buddy Matthews with a tweet after that, sort of inferring that. I don't know. We'll see. But building a faction around them would be kind of cool. Although there are 2 factions on Friday Night SmackDown that I want to talk about. Might not be room for a third one, especially another creepy one. Might want to move Aleister to Monday Night Raw if you're going to do that. But Solo and the MFTs continue to wreak havoc on the SmackDown roster, specifically on Sami Zayn. They came out and attacked Sami and Ilya last week, Sami and Nakamura, and obviously the Wyatt Six are standing up for the SmackDown roster, seemingly. I really like the MFTs. I talked about this last week. Their face paint is really cool. And this new rebirth of the MFTs is really cool. I just wish they would go after like more main roster, or not main roster, main event level talent. So Sami is good. And again, Sami and this credibility of the U.S. Championship, okay, that's okay. And especially because Solo lost the U.S. Championship to Sami, okay, but maybe like you got like Randy Orton. That would be cool for Solo and the MFT to target. I don't want to say Cody Rhodes exactly, but they've already had their run with Jacob Fatu. But maybe some more high-profile guys. I think that would be cool. Like, I would love for the MFT to attack AJ Styles. Have them go after AJ. I think that could be cool. I know they're on different brands, but I just think if you want to establish this gang taking over, you do it with some big, big guys. That's how the NWO got over in WCW. I know it was 3 main event guys already, but they were taking out Sting, Flair, Luger, Savage, all of those. They were taking out those guys every week. It wasn't like the NWO was, excuse me, going after Chris Jericho or Alex Wright or Disco Inferno or, they weren't going after guys like that. No disrespect to those guys in their place. It's just that was their place on the WCW roster. I digress. I know I just compared the MFTs to the NWO. What I'm saying is if you want them to have that reputation, I think they need bigger talent to go after. But all that to say, with the Wyatt Six coming after them and sort of stopping them, seems like this could be a War Games match. I don't know. You look like you were headed towards the Vision versus a group of Roman, the Usos, CM Punk, and LA Knight, I guess, in War Games. But now you could flip the script. 4-on-4 MFTs versus Y6. And then you go the women. You can have the women on Raw. You do Rhea, Io, and I don't know, fill in a blank, against Asuka, Kairi Sane. Add in 2 there too. You could do that. I'd be interested in that War Games match. MFTs versus the Wyatt Six. Man, yes. Let's go. I'd get down with that for sure. All right. That's going to do it for another edition of Squared Circle Radio Live. We appreciate you guys being locked in here with us. City Kitty, appreciate you always chiming in the chat. Really keeps the conversation going. Appreciate that so very much. And all of you who are watching who didn't chime in, drop your comments. I'll go back and answer them later. And then drop comments next week. It'd be a whole lot of fun. We'll be right back here with you next Monday night after Raw for another edition of Squared Circle Radio. We'll talk all about Saturday night's main event coming up next Saturday. I think CM Punk and Jey Uso is the only confirmed match so far. Sure, we'll get some more here on SmackDown. We'll get a more clearer picture of what's going to happen. All right, but we will be right here with you next Monday. If you're new to the show, number one, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. That helps the algorithm. Please share the show on your social media. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, City Kitty. Like, subscribe, and share. Would mean the world. Does it cost you a thing? Not going to sign you up on an email list. It's just going to help me a ton. Please do that for us. And then join us for each and every live show. We would appreciate that so very much. If you're new, again, go back in the archives. Check out previous episodes, previous videos, all that kind of stuff. We would appreciate that as well. All right. My name's Chris Belcher. Thanks for hanging with us on another edition of Squared Circle Radio Live. We will catch you guys down the road.